Sanbonani and welcome to Our Africa, the show that brings you all the news making headlines across the continent for this week. From Cape to Cairo, Mombasa to Lagos, we bring you business, politics, health news and arts and culture. I'm Lesego Mokonane. First thing first, let's take a look at the story of the week. North Gauteng High Court has reserved judgment in the Grace Mugabe assault case. Lobby group AfriForum and the Democratic Alliance want the court to set aside a government decision to grant Mugabe immunity. Sindisiwe Twala filed this report.
Former DIRCO Minister Nkwane Mashabane did not confer diplomatic immunity on Grace Mugabe. Instead, the minister only acknowledged it according to international law. The state made this submission during closing arguments in the North Gauteng High Court.
Well, my Lord, of course, your Lordship is raising the question of mootness. The fact is that the minister's position is that if she comes back to South Africa now, she does not have immunity, unless, of course, she comes back under a different guise, as the foreign minister, or as an envoy, or as a diplomat. Well, that would be a different question. But if she comes back now in her ordinary capacity right now, she arrives back here tomorrow, she does not have the immunity that she previously had.
A DIRCO decision allowed Mugabe to leave South Africa in August 2017. This was after she allegedly assaulted a model, Gabriella Engels.
It's not for the minister to decide whether customary international law is inconsistent with the Constitution or not. She doesn't decide the law, she's the executive. Her job is to carry out the laws of Parliament or the laws of this country, and she doesn't tell Miss Engels, Dr. Mugabe or anybody else what the law is.
The Engels family says they have faith in the judicial system. They allege that the Mugabes even offered them money to drop the case.
You can't buy justice. You can't just give a sum of money and my daughter is supposed to yield and just accept, because at the end of the day, my daughter still does not know why this woman came and attacked her from nowhere, you understand? All the stories that's been circulating that my daughter attacked racists are after lie. There are witnesses that were in the room, you know, that can say that this woman just barged into the room and hit her. So at the end of the day, we want to know why she did that. And you can't put a child through trauma and then just come give a certain amount of money and expect the child to go on with her life and the trauma must be washed away with money. That's not the way it works.
The court reserved judgment in the matter. Only time will tell whether former First Lady of Zimbabwe, Grace Mugabe, will have her day in court for a criminal case. Judgment has been reserved on whether or not diplomatic immunity did apply. For Afro World View, Sindisiwe Twala, Pretoria.
Accompanied by a military gun salute, Mozambique lays to rest rebel supremo and opposition leader Afonso Dhlakama in his remote birth village. His unexpected death has thrown the country's peace process into uncertainty.
Thousands of mourners flocked to the port city of Beira to pay their last respects to rebel group Renamo's late leader Afonso Dhlakama. He died of a suspected heart attack on Thursday, May the 3rd, 2018, at his hideout in the Gorongosa Mountains, central Mozambique.
A Comissão Política Nacional, reunida na cidade da Beira, província de Sofala, no dia 4 de maio de 2018, em sessão extraordinária, comunica com profunda dor e consternação a todo o povo moçambicano, à nação moçambicana, aos membros e simpatizantes, aos quadros do Partido Renamo, à comunidade internacional, o crescimento do nosso pai, o ícone da democracia moçambicana, Sua Excelência Afonso Macacho Maceda Dhlakama.
Mozambique's President Filipe Nyusi set aside political differences to pay tribute to his arch-rival, Dhlakama. He pledged to continue the fragile peace talks he had been holding with the ex-rebel supremo turned opposition politician.
A partir da captura do nosso compatriota, não deve constituir revés neste processo de diálogo.
Osofa Momade, Renamo's interim leader until the next party congress, vowed to take up the baton from Dhlakama.
Este fato tornou o presidente Afonso Macacho Maceda Dhlakama vítima da intolerância política dentro sucessivamente sofrido ataques perpetrados pelas forças de defesa e segurança.
Dhlakama led Renamo for nearly 40 years before his unexpected death at the age of 65. He played a central role in Mozambique after it gained independence from Portugal in 1975. Dhlakama led Renamo through a deadly civil war against the Marxist-inspired Frelimo government until the conflict ended in 1992. He then gradually transformed Renamo into an opposition party which failed to take power from Frelimo in elections until it again took up arms between 2013 and 2016. Dhlakama had recently held talks with President Philip Nyusi and was seen as playing a key role in advancing the nascent peace process. His departure has cast a shadow over the negotiations 5 months ahead of local government elections and 18 months to the next presidential and legislative elections.
Estamos assim sem saber se na verdade entre esses que ficaram e o presidente da República, que seja o governo da Frelimo, podem conseguir viver de boa maneira com a gente ou não. O que nós queremos muito mais é paz em Moçambique. Obrigado.
In a fairy tribute, Dhlakama's niece and head of Renamo's parliamentary group, Yvonne Soares, lauded her uncle for not caving into incessant attacks by the so-called system and indigent regime.
Mas é grande a determinação da maioria dos jovens, futuros chefes de família e de toda a sociedade em transformar essa dor em energia para lutarmos ainda com mais força pela liberdade.
In the build-up to 2014 elections, Dhlakama was confident that Renamo would emerge victorious given the new electoral laws.
Agora, com a lei eleitoral nova, de facto, os partidos têm possibilidade de colocar os seus homens para poderem controlar os votos. Acredito que serão as primeiras eleições com credibilidade ou até com transparência, se tudo correr bem de maneira como a lei está. Tenho confiança, embora África é África. África é África e as pessoas preparam sempre desviar votos, até carregar urnas, transformar urnas e tudo. São milhares de pessoas que prometem me votar. Agora, essa gente, se vai votar, o seu voto é desviado, de certeza essas pessoas vão poder exigir a justiça. Para quem olha para cabelo, fica muito branco. O meu pai não tem cabelo branco. Esse cabelo é por causa de problemas, assuntos já viu em África, lutar pela democracia. Uma pessoa acaba por ficar velho. Eu sinto-me ainda jovem, com energia, com vontade, com capacidade de servir este povo de Moçambique.
Dhlakama came out of hiding in 2014 to sign a peace deal with the president Armando Guebuza. This ended a 2-year conflict that rekindled memories of the country's brutal civil war. However, it seemed that peace wouldn't last long.
Lamentamos sim que 7 horas depois da chegada da cidade da Beira, na sua residência, as forças de defesa e segurança tenham sido obrigadas a voltarem à residência do presidente da Câmara, munidos de carro de assalto, bazucas, MGGs, granadas e AK-47, segundo eles, para recuperar o material perdido em Gondola no dia 25 de setembro, a quando do segundo ataque que visava assassinar o presidente da Câmara e os quadros políticos e civis e de segurança que o acompanhavam. As forças de defesa e segurança, ao agirem da forma como o fizeram, demonstraram a sua face cobarde e assumiram publicamente que são estas forças que desestabilizam a vida dos moçambicanos no país.
Dhlakama is recognized for transforming Renamo into a political party which participated in elections since the first multi-party democratic vote in October 1994. But threats to his life later forced him to retreat his wartime bush camp in central Mozambique, claiming that the government had reneged on a 1992 peace agreement.
Estes ataques obrigaram a socorrer-se das matas da Formosa para salvaguardar a sua vida e poder continuar incansavelmente a defender os interesses mais nobres de todos os moçambicanos.
Afonso Dhlakama was buried in his native village of Mangunde, southwest of Beira. Renamo has appointed former party deputy Osufo Momado as its interim leader until the party's next Congress. Bureau Report, Afro World View.
Tunisia held its first free municipal elections on the 5th of May as voters expressed frustration at the slow pace of change since the 2011 revolution in the cradle of the Arab Spring. The election has been touted as another milestone on the road to democracy in the North African country, which has been praised for its transition from decades of dictatorship. Tunisia has struggled with persistent economic, security and political problems, as well as corruption since the revolution, and the turnout was just 33.7% of the 5.3 million eligible voters. Municipal polls were delayed 4 times since 2011 due to logistical, administrative and political deadlocks. The municipal elections enshrined in the new constitution mark the first tangible step of decentralization since the end of Ben Ali's rule. More than 57,000 candidates, half of them women and young people, had thrown their names in the hat for office in Tunisia's 350 municipalities.
هذا النجاح في حركة النهضة نعتبره كما قلت لتونس هو مهم لتونس ومهم لسمعة تونس، مهم للانتقال الديمقراطي. والمعطيات الأولية ما زالت النتائج ما نجموش نتحدثوا على نتائج نهائية، ولكن المعطيات الأولية والتوجه العام الأولي يعطي تقدم للنهضة ويعطي فوز للنهضة. هذه الانتخابات أيضا من إحدى أكبر دلالاتها أنها تعطي الفوز لحزبين كبيرين اللي هما النهضة والنداء، وهذا نعتبروه مهم للديمقراطية التونسية، مهم للانتقال الديمقراطي، مهم بقطع النظر عن حجم كل حزب والأصوات اللي جابها في هذه الانتخابات، لأنه يعطي للديمقراطية التوازن المطلوب، أن البناء السياسي والهندسة السياسية اللي انبنت عليها الحياة السياسية بعد 2014 تحت عناوين الشراكة والتوافق ودفع الإصلاحات ستظل قائمة، لأنها المرجعية متاعها هي مرجعية انتخابات 2014.
Algerian resident doctors who are following a specialization course and have been on strike for nearly 6 months announced on Monday to tighten their movement by ceasing to provide night guards in all hospitals. Resident doctors are graduates of general medicine, which takes 7 years of study, and pursue 4 or 5 years of specialization after a competition. They have been on strike since mid-November and are mainly demanding the abolition of the civil service, which requires them, once their specialist degree is obtained, to practice between 1 and 4 years in sometimes remote areas, in addition to 12 months of military service, compulsory for all Algerian men. Although on strike, these resident doctors continue to provide guards at night, weekends and holidays. The strikers intend to denounce the lack of response to their demands by the authorities. In early April, medical residents had rejected government proposals, including the deduction of the duration of military service from that of the civil service. The government had also proposed inter alia the introduction of a bonus depending on the zone of assignment or the compulsory provision of an individual dwelling to each doctor performing his civil service in an area far from his home. To deal with the residents' arrest of the guards, the Ministry of Health decided to order the requisitioning of the resident doctors who are members of the guard teams. Residents intend to continue the strike until the repeal of the obligation of civil service and exemption from national service after 30 years, which benefit other Algerians.
المطالب اللي مدوها الآن كانت قادرة تتمد بعد شهر أو شهرين من الإضراب. الحالة تتعفن وغلقت أوصدت أبواب الحوار وراهي تزيد تتعقد.
خلونا نخدموا كلش اون ديباسي لو ستات تاع ميدسان ولينا دي بوشترو بوابين ادي لي بيلون نرفدوا لي مرض نحطوهم في لي برونكار نرفد لي مرض في لي زيسكالي نطلعهم باسكو لاسونسور اي طون بان. مي سبحان الله لي كتاه نقعدوا يبروفيتيو منا لي كتاه نقعدوا ساكتين على سو بوريسمون دون لي بلو غران زوبيتو. الوغ لا في السود الناس راهي تسوفري يفو لو دير.
The search for survivors after a dam burst its banks in central Kenya resumes. The region's governor says that there are 44 confirmed dead and a further 40 are still missing. Weeks of heavy rains have caused flooding and mudslides across the country that have left 175 dead. On Wednesday evening, the earthen wall of a privately owned irrigation dam in Solai, about 40 kilometers north of Nakuru town in Kenya's Rift Valley, breached and inundated nearby settlements. Dozens more were taken to hospital with injuries. A sea of mud and water washed away 2 villages and cut power lines. The torrent hit while people were in their homes or sleeping, with one survivor describing it as hell on earth. Many of the houses affected were rickety structures made of wood and tin that stood little chance against the raging flood waters. The Kenyan Red Cross estimates that up to 500 families have been affected by the disaster.
An unfortunate incident of the last dam collapse, whereby water ran over some villages and affecting a number of families. The most important thing for us right now, we have the search teams which are on the ground, and we have the capacity because we have everything that we needed to conduct the search. As we are here right away, the area for search is a long stretch from the dam area downstream. And as it is straight away, search team operation led by the Kenya Defense Forces, they are doing the search for the area, assisted by the mold agent stakeholders. As it is now, I cannot give you the exact number of the missing people because the situation cannot allow. We will be giving wrong information. So what we need is to continue the search and also looking forward to assist these families.
And now let's take a look at how African markets closed on Friday. A Kenyan-made film on lesbian love breaks new ground after it premiered at the Cannes Festival this week. But at home, the movie has been banned, a decision exposing the often bitter debate over homosexuality in East Africa. Rafiki, meaning friend in Kiswahili, is adapted from a prize-winning short story called Jambula Tree by Ugandan writer Monica Arakde Nyeko. The film, telling the tale of 2 young women whose fathers are political rivals, is the first ever film from Kenya to get a slot at the world's most prestigious cinema festival. It premieres on Wednesday in the Uncertain Regard category, reserved for emerging directors. The ban was announced by Ezekiel Mutua, a self-described fervent moral crusader who runs the Kenya Film Classification Board and has described his job as upholding cultural and moral values through content regulation. He rallied against the film for seeking to normalize homosexuality in Kenya and condemned it for showing the resilience of the youngsters involved in homosexuality. He demanded that director Wanuri Kahui cut the offensive classifiable elements, including romantic scenes and a happy ending. The director has declined to speak much about the Kenyan ban, focusing instead on the premiere.
One of the most interesting things is actually the discussion to include sexual orientation as one of the grounds upon which discrimination is prohibited was actually had during discussions around the new constitution. And the homophobes, or rather the more conservative thinking groups, did actually shut that down. So it's for that reason that sexual orientation isn't expressly included in our constitution. But what's interesting is that there wasn't probably the thinking that there would be, you know, this application of the constitution as it is as a sufficient law to still protect this group of people. It definitely casts somewhat of a negative light as to where Kenya is at in terms of its own, you know, struggle for equality. I feel as if the same remarks or comments were made a few years ago by the same president, and the fact that the narrative has stayed the same sort of reflects a stagnation in our progress. I think that it is important that these stories get told. I think that social activism is just as important as the legal work that we do, and for that reason, when we see films like Rafiki being banned, we're up in arms about it, because we know the impact that the law has, which is why we're in court fighting. But at the same time, we understand that until the society starts to change its thinking, until this becomes an issue that has been humanized, then there is no way for the common Kenyan to have peace.
The World Health Organization is preparing for the worst-case scenario in a fresh outbreak of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Addressing the media in Geneva, the organization says that it was very concerned and is planning for all scenarios, including the worst-case scenario. WHO has tallied 32 suspected or confirmed cases in the northwestern area of Bigoro on the shores of Lake Tumbate near the border with the Republic of Congo. There has been 18 deaths between April the 4th and May the 9th. The outbreak declared by the DRC Health Ministry on Tuesday is the DRC's 9th known outbreak of Ebola since 1976. The affected region of the West Drive-torn Central African country is very remote and hard to reach, with a dire lack of functioning infrastructure. WHO already has a team on the ground and is preparing to send up to 40 more specialists to the region in the coming week or so. The organization says that, however, the possibility of international spread of the disease was still considered low, but said the situation was constantly being evaluated.
This is an experimental vaccine. This is not a licensed product, and there are a lot of complications with using an experimental vaccine, which requires to be kept in the long term at between -60 and -80 degrees Celsius. So this is not a simple logistical effort. It's not like doing a polio campaign with oral polio vaccine where we get it immediately out to the field. This is a highly complex, sophisticated operation in one of the most difficult terrains on Earth. It is absolutely a dire scene in terms of infrastructure. There are very few paved roads, very little electrification, very poor water and sanitation, and as I mentioned, the only way we'll mount a serious response in this outbreak is through an air bridge. Just to give you a sense, we're talking about an area that's 280 kilometers even from the provincial capital of Equator, so it's going to be extremely challenging in terms of the response. So we need to make sure everyone's aware this is going to be tough and it's going to be costly to stamp out this outbreak.
Salah collected 2 awards on the same night. He first started by collecting one for being Liverpool fans' player and Players' Player of the Year. He later jetted off to London to collect the prestigious Football Writers' Player of the Year award.
I was here like 4 years ago, and a lot of people said he couldn't success and he cannot, he cannot play in a Premier League. It's very difficult for him, so it was always in my mind to come back. From day first I left Chelsea, it was always in my mind to come back to make them wrong. So I make them wrong. Improved a lot in Rome, but as you can see also the finishing, the speed, the power, the strength. But I cannot say everything on me, because also the teammates make the difference, the coach, the staff, they make my game easier. And they always try to help me inside the field, outside. So I have to thank all of them, all my teammates, the coach, the staff. I have to thank them again.
That's all the news making headlines across the African continent for this week. From Milesego Mukonane, Salani Gahle.